Welcome to Surely for Nothing, a dramatic reading. Oh, look at those Okies. That's the way you do it. You create a podcast focused primarily on the 1980s. No, that's not working. That's the way you do it. The episodes cost nothing, but the Patreon isn't free.
All right, D, I'm super excited this week. I have been working all week on Brothers in Arms.
That ain't working. That's the way you do it. You do your podcast and you call it Shirley.
Yeah, there we go.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Surely You Can't Be Serious podcast. We are here live and in living color covering Dire Straits' album, Brothers in Arms.
Yeah, and if you missed it, last week we covered Heart's 1985 album. We are comparing these two. Do they have a lot in common? Maybe more than you think.
They're both really big in 1985.
They were big in 1985.
Yeah, they're both celebrating their 40th anniversary. How about that?
That's it. Both hit number one in the fall of 1985.
Yeah, and they were inescapable if you were listening to Top 40 radio in 1985.
That's right. That's right. You know, the interesting thing about this particular album, this is at the birth of CDs.
Yeah.
The incredible time when people were moving away from vinyl for sure, moving away from tapes and actually buying CDs. And it actually produced a sort of large uptick in money going to record companies and bands ultimately.
Yeah, the record companies were probably more powerful at this stage of history than they had ever been before, and probably that they will ever be again, because there was the downfall in the late 90s, a la Napster and LimeWire and all that other stuff. But these albums are both by bands who formed in the 70s. Right. Art formed in mid-70s. Dire Straits formed in 1977. I mean, they formed about a year apart, really, and then both had kind of lulls in between their debut albums and then this 1985 album that they both had. So they got a little more in common than you might think.
Okay, so before we dive into the history,
I've
got just a few overview facts I want to give you on Brothers in Arms.
Sure,
okay,
yeah.
So number one, this is the first album to sell 1 million CDs.
CDs in 1985.
In 1985.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a CD player. I in the household. My brother bought my parents a big gift of a CD player in 1989, I think. Service merchandise, by the way, if you remember that old store.
Service merchandise. I love service merchandise.
By the way, guys, if this is your first time here and you remember as a kid having a Swatch watch or a Casio watch, then you're in the right spot. I got to tell you, I was at the pharmacy the other day, and the girl is checking my stuff, and she's got this little gold Casio watch, and I was like, "Oh, whoa, nice Casio!" And she's like, "Thanks. All the older adults notice it." And I'm like, "Well, screw you then. Taking my compliment back, ma'am."
Right.
But if you had a gold Casio or a Casio, maybe even a calculator watch, you're in the right spot.
Or a calculator. Well, no, forget that.
Had something that in 1985 you might be able to tap into the flux capacitor and send yourself back to the future. Yes.
I had a Mr. Calculator, like a cartoon face that. Yeah. Okay, so this first album to sell 1 million CDs.
Right.
Spent 14 weeks at number one in 1985.
Yeah.
In the UK, 7 in the US.
Still not bad.
I mean, it's killing it, right?
Right.
30 million albums sold in 1985. Dude, that is smashing it.
Yeah.
And the company that owned the record label, Philips, used this album as a benchmark, saying you've got to get a CD player because technology and sounds like this will be soon coming out of your speakers.
It was essentially their demo CD for the CD player.
It's one of the reasons why it sold so many copies.
Yeah.
People wanted to hear this coming out of their new speaker.
Yeah.
And got to have the benchmark CD.
And I think once we've listened to a few of the songs, we can discuss the other possibilities on why this, of all albums, was such a big seller for CDs.
Okay. Let's dive into it, man.
Let's do it, man. I'm ready.
Do we want to dive into the first song, or you want to go history? How do we want to do this?
I would say let's dive into the first song, and I'll talk history as we go through.
All right. First song on the album is a song called So Far Away.
Tired of making out on the telephone. This song is fantastic, right?
I love this one. It's a big hit, yeah.
It's mellow, but it's got a groove. The sound, you can hear the awesome sonic sound to it, and then I'm tired of having phone sex with you, honey. I want to see you for real. You're so far away from me. Yeah,
that's right.
So far, I just can't see. You're so far away from me. You're so far away from me.
So here's the interesting thing, I think. This album was released May 17th, 1985.
Okay.
This was the first single released in the UK,
Okay.
but the third single released in the US.
All right.
I don't really understand why they do that.
Well, so their history is really interesting, and I'll get into more of that later. But they are a grassroots band from the get-go. They're just as regular a bunch of guys as you could ask for. They're all just guys who are barely scraping by until they happen to make it, which I'll talk about in a minute. But then once they did make it, making it is not an instantaneous thing. It's a build. And so the first place that they sent their album was the Netherlands, because it was apparently a good gauge of how the album would perform worldwide, depending on how it performed in the Netherlands. Did well there, wasn't doing so well in Germany, but they did some work in Germany, and then they started to catch popularity and became even more popular in Germany. And they were starting to get more and more popular in different countries in Europe, and weren't even that popular in the UK yet. And it's just like, it's this kind of weird matter of how one country will have a different taste than another country. And you will hear over and over with these guys that everyone says, we thought you were an American band, because their sound is an American sound.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I heard John Ilsley
Yeah.
say that they sent the album to the Netherlands, hoping to sell 5,000 copies.
Yeah.
And when word came back that they had already sold 25,000 copies,
Yeah.
they were like, we might be onto something.
Yeah. Might be time to start touring.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So this song in particular reached number 19 in the States in April of 86.
Yeah.
I got your top 5 that week.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And this is a Shirley top 5. This is a strong top 5,
It's
right?
1985. Of course, it's a Shirley top 5.
Well, it's 86. But,
okay, right, yeah.
So number 5 is Why Can't This Be Love by Van Halen, the first single with Sammy Hagar.
Right.
Number 4 is Manic Monday, The Beautiful Bangles.
Susanna Hoffs.
Number 3, West End Girls by the Pet Shop Boys.
I couldn't get enough of that
It's a
song.
banger, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, Addicted to Love by Robert Palmer.
Yep.
And number 1, Kiss by Prince. Pretty solid right there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely a great list.
This album was recorded at George Martin's AIR Studios in Montserrat.
Yeah.
And I want to talk more about that later.
Yeah.
But I think already you can feel the influence of the island on this song.
It does have, this song especially has a very beach, relaxed kind of feel to it,
Kind
for
of a
sure.
sway to it.
It's a groove. You can almost see the palm trees waving in the breeze.
No doubt. I read that they had these songs all written and rehearsed before they got to the island.
Yeah.
But I still believe that the island impacted the sound of this album.
No doubt. No doubt.
Okay. Lovely song. I love it. It's one of the, top 20 hits.
Yeah.
Big song.
Huge song. Great one out of the gate. I'd say it's more than an appetizer. It's a solid appetizer, but oh my gosh.
Should we get to the meal?
You can leave everything else behind. Just I know what you're going to do. Like you're going to start the music right about here as I'm talking.
Let's go ahead
because
and get
it's
Let's
a nice
start to swell. Yeah.
It's a nice build. That's the understatement of the year. This is arguably one of the best builds in all of music history. And we didn't get it half of the time. Whenever we would hear the song, they would start after the build.
Right.
And it's so good. It's so powerful. It's so perfectly timed. And to have Sting just happen to be next door And hey, would you like to come and sing a little bit on this song? Build, 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 and then you come crashing in with...
One of the great guitar intros of all time.
It's fantastic. And I mean, even if you skip that whole intro, that boom of a guitar coming in with Mark Knopfler's incredible finger-picking style, the unique combination of chords that he's got going on, it is remarkable. It is overwhelming. I cannot say enough good about this intro and this song.
So the genesis of this song is super interesting, but almost as interesting is what happened while they were recording this song.
Okay.
So the genesis, if you don't know this, and you probably, I mean, I know you do because you've studied, but Mark Knopfler was looking for the ZZ Top sound for this, right?
Yes.
He even reached out to Billy Gibbons.
Okay.
He was like, hey, Billy, I want to do this ZZ Top sound. And Billy Gibbons later said, you know, he did a really good job, seeing as how I didn't tell him a GD thing. But they had this happy accident when they were recording the song. Well, let me back up. The genesis of the song is Mark Knopfler was living in New York City, and he was at a department store, like, I don't know where it was exactly, like Sears or something.
Yeah, this probably was when they were recording their third album, because they were at the Power Station recording it. That's when Dave ended up leaving the band, was when they were doing their recording in New York City. So my guess is it was around that time.
So he's in there, and he's buying a refrigerator, okay?
Microwave oven.
He's buying a refrigerator, and he's standing there in front of this wall of TVs that's playing MTV. And there's a guy, like a delivery guy, who comes up, and he stands next to him. He's like, that ain't working. What is that, Hawaiian noises?
So
that little Queenie.
Yeah, right. So there's obviously some language that has not lasted through the PC of time. Yeah, but you got to keep in mind, he's playing a part here. These are not the words that he would use.
That's right.
I mean, I know these. I haven't studied these guys. They hung out with that type of folk all the time and would never use it on their own. But he's playing the part of this radio, refrigerator installer, yeah. Right? But I think the most fascinating thing that we covered this a long time ago, the band that they were watching on all those TVs, was Motley Crue.
I know, right? How about that? He's looking at them saying, that guy's a millionaire. Come on. What is this?
I mean, probably they were watching the Home Sweet Home video that you referenced in our top 5 of 85. I mean,
wow.
Because you got the top almost coming off. Look at her putting it in the camera. Man, the guys ain't dumb.
That's right. That's right. Chicks for free.
Yeah.
So he was so impacted by this conversation he had with this delivery guy.
Yeah.
I should have learned to play them drums. Look at that mama. She got it sticking in the cameraman. We could have some. And he's up there. What's that? Hawaiian noises. He's banging on the bongos like a chimpanzee. Oh, that ain't working.
That he went around looking for a pen and a piece of paper, and he's writing down, and I wrote down things that he got from this guy. Okay.
Yeah.
So he actually got, that ain't working. He got sticking in the camera.
Yeah.
And look at that.
F.
Yeah. Oh, and also, what are those Hawaiian noises?
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is a hilarious line, right?
Right.
What is that, Hawaiian noises?
Because there's not a Motley Crue song that I can think of that has anything like a Hawaiian noise at all.
It doesn't matter. That ain't working. Maybe you get a blister on your little finger.
Maybe you get a blister on your thumb.
So that's an interesting story to me. But really, the fascinating part of this song is they're in Montserrat, which is British West Indies. It's an island basically of isolation. They move you there so you can concentrate on recording. And they're working on this song, and one of the ways that they get this incredible sound with the guitar, he's trying to mimic ZZ Top. Mm-hmm. They leave the studio. They come in one day, and the microphones are all messed up. Did you hear this story?
No.
So they come in. One mic is pointing at the floor, and one's like moved out over here and there and kind of scattered, but it's making an incredible sound. And so they're like, don't touch anything.
Wow.
They call it the happy accident.
Love it.
So literally they're like, what? Somebody moved all this stuff around. Don't touch it.
Little microphone fairies came out in the middle of the night.
Right.
That's crazy.
And so he's writing this song from the perspective of this guy watching MTV, talking about how ridiculous MTV is, right? And they're playing to MTV.
Yeah.
And Mark Knopfler makes the comment, I sure wish Sting was here.
Yeah.
He'd be great to sing this part.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you talking about? Sting is here. Sting's windsurfing right now. They're like, what? And so Sting was in Montserrat because he loved the island and had recorded Ghost in the Machine and Synchronicity and was just there hanging out on holiday.
They had just finished with Synchronicity just a couple years, maybe a year or two before this album was being recorded.
He's windsurfing, just hanging out.
Yeah, sure, why not?
So he came in and they invited him to come up to dinner.
Uh-huh.
They played Money for Nothing for him and said, hey, what do you think? He's like, the comment was, you bastards, you've done it, right? And Mark Knopfler's like, well, if you love it so much, why don't you sing on it?
Well, if you love it so much, why don't you sing on it?
Right. So Sting is like, fine, I will.
Uh-huh.
Right? And he sings the I Want My MTV line to the tune of Don't Stand So Close to Me.
Now, listening audience, you must know, Don't Stand So Close to Me is my favorite Police song. It is my favorite Police song. And this song is my favorite Dire Straits song. Sultans of Swing, a near second. But this one is top of the list. And not until you told this to me about a week ago that I go, don't stand so close to me. I want my MTV. I was just like, wow, what?
Yes.
So no problem. Sting said you guys can use it, right?
Right. Except the record company's like, no. That belongs to us. They've got to pay us a percentage of their song.
What a crock.
And Sting was very embarrassed by that. He's like,
Of
I
course.
just sang, he asked me to sing a line. I sang a line.
Right. And it's not like it's a super complicated melody.
Right.
That's crazy.
Rolling Stone voted this the 94th greatest guitar song of all time.
Got no problem with that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the music video.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Mark Knopfler hates music videos, but MTV's like, listen, dude, this song plays to us. We love it. We want to play the heck out of it, but we have to have a great music video to make this work.
Yeah.
So they send some executives to go meet with him, and he's not receptive to it at all. They later go back a second time, but this time his girlfriend is with him. And they're like, we have to have a creative video to go along with this awesome song. And he's still, like, basically arms crossed, looking at his shoes, says nothing. So they leave. And his girlfriend, who happened to be there the second time, was like, they're right. They're absolutely right. You have to make a video worthy of this song. He's like, all right, fine. They hire Steve Barron, Mr. Music Video.
Right.
And they come up with this idea of like computer coloring, making those wild colors while they're playing this incredible song.
Right. Kind of a takeoff on the Take On Me style.
It's sort of rotoscoping, right?
Yeah, right.
We're going to talk about that here in just a second.
Yeah.
But this song is the first song aired on MTV Europe, August 1st, 1987.
Okay.
I mean, that's as monumental as Video Killed the Radio Star, in Europe.
Sure.
So this video goes on to win MTV's Music Video of the Year for 1986.
And beats out Take On Me by Aha.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. The other ones, you had Cry by Goodley and Cream, which we've talked about multiple times now.
That's right. Yep.
You have Addicted But to Love by Robert Palmer, which you mentioned as the number 2 song?
Number 2 song this week. Yep.
And
got all the babes in the background.
And then Road to Nowhere by the Talking Heads, which the Talking Heads was the first group that Dire Straits toured with when they very first started doing a European tour.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Actually made good friends with them. Cannot say the same for Styx. Styx, when they were touring with Styx, it went very badly.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I hate to be done with this one.
It's so freaking good.
That's the way you do it. I mean,
You play the guitar on your MTV.
okay, D. So the next song on the album is a song that was really big early 1986. And I loved it in particular because the music video was nothing but NFL football bloopers.
Sure.
Third song on the album is a song called Walk of Life. Okay, I've got some stuff for you on this song.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, third single released October 14th, 1985, right around the same time the Super Bowl Shuffle came out.
Yeah.
Go back and check out our Super Bowl Shuffle episode.
Very popular episode.
Reached number 2 in the UK, reached number 7 in the US. Top 10 hit. Hear the top 6 real quick?
Of course I do.
So, number 7 is Walk of Life. Number 6 is My Hometown. Number 5 is I'm Your Man by George Michael. Number 4 is Talk to Me by Stevie Nicks. Number 3 is Burning Heart by Survivor from the
Vital
Nope.
Signs? No?
Rocky IV Rocky IV soundtrack.
Okay.
Number 2 is Say You Say Me by
Lionel
Richie.
Lionel Richie, yeah.
And then number 1, That's What Friends Are For with Dionne Warwick, Stevie Wonder,
Yeah.
Gladys Knight, and
The Pips.
Elton John. Which I've got a funny Montserrat story to tell you about Elton John.
Okay.
I'm going to throw it in real quick.
Yeah,
okay?
let's do it.
So they recorded in Montserrat. So just some other artists that recorded in Montserrat. Jimmy Buffett, Jerry Rafferty, right?
Oh, yeah.
The
go
Police.
Go check out our top 5 of 1978.
78, that's right.
Yeah.
The Police recorded, Ghost of the Machine and Synchronicity. Elton John recorded there, which I want to tell you here in a second. Black Sabbath, Rush, Keith Richards, and the last album recorded there was Steel Wheels by the Rolling Stones. But the interesting thing, so Montserrat, not much to do. Basically windsurfing or swimming at the pool, which they had a pool there.
Or recording a top 200 album.
Or recording a top 200 album. Yeah. Or, staying up late with the locals and drinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Elton John and his crew stayed up way late one night drinking. Everybody called in sick because they were all hungover, still recovering from the night before.
Yeah.
And Elton John is standing there and he's mad that his whole crew is not there. And he's like, well, what's going on here? We're here to do some work. Where is everybody? Well, Jimmy's hungover and this guy's puking in the toilet, whatever. And one guitarist is like, hey, I'm still standing. And guess what? That turns into a hit song.
Wow.
Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did. Looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid.
Okay?
Nice.
Back to Walk of Life.
Yes.
This song mentions Johnny down in the tunnels trying to make it pay, which is referencing busking on the subway.
Yep.
Right? It also references old songs like I Got a Woman by Ray Charles.
Yep.
Bebopalua, which is a song by Gene Vincent from 1956.
I know it.
What I'd Say by Ray Charles and Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
My Sweet by Robert Nighthawk and Mac the Knife by Bobby Darin.
Nice.
Johnny singing oldies goldies. Bebopalula, baby, what I say. Here comes Johnny singing, I got a woman down in the tunnel trying to make it pay.
I kind of love it when they kind of do this little throwback thing. I think Def Leppard did that with Rocket.
Exactly.
What
That's what I was thinking of.
do you think of this song?
Love it.
It's a toe tapper, right?
They have come out of the gate with 3 absolute smashes.
Yeah.
No question about it. Fantastic first 3 songs.
Yeah.
And songs that were all over the radio and all over MTV for 1985 and 1986.
Yes. And one of my favorite music videos just because of the NFL bloopers.
Right.
Next song on the album is called Your Latest Trick.
All right. I feel like we just took a hard left.
Yeah.
I felt like we were going in a very specific direction, and all of a sudden we are no longer going south, we are going east.
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't really know. This song sounds like a moonlighting episode where Maddie is mad at David.
I was thinking it's like in Mr. Mom whenever he's depressed about his state of life. That's what it sounds like to me.
That's right. Yes, chef's gone to bed.
So
Yes.
these guys are flexing their musical muscle here, right?
Right.
So we've known since 1978 that they can crank out some killer rock hits, and they decide on song number 4 to go, hey, guess what else we can do?
They throw on the jazz and it hits you like a cold bucket of water.
Yeah.
This one doesn't do it for me at all.
Right. But there is a certain contingency of folks out there that love this kind of music, right?
Sure. Well, sure.
I mean, and a ton of them were buying CDs
Yeah.
in 1985, probably, right?
Sure.
I mean, if any group of folks really wanted to hear each instrument and every instrument as clearly and beautifully as possible, it's the folks listening to jazz, right?
So here's what I will say about this particular song.
Yeah.
So we've already heard pop.
Yep.
We've heard rock. This is now jazz. I think we'll hear some hints of reggae here in a second. We'll hear country here in a minute. There's 9 songs on this album, and that's 5 genres of music.
Yeah.
These guys are just offering something to everybody.
Yeah.
This is not my particular thing,
Yeah.
but hey, what do I know?
In the right time, playing a game of pool late at night, maybe, or, having a relaxing drink by the poolside, something like that. This is very kind of chill out kind of music.
This was the 5th single, released April 25th, 1986. It wasn't released in the U.S., which is why we don't know it,
Yeah.
but it was released in the U.K. as the 5th single.
So John Illsley
Yes.
is the bassist for the band, right?
Right.
So long before they were ever famous, he graduated from college. He didn't have much money, and he and his girlfriend decided to start a record shop.
Okay.
And so he didn't know. I mean, he knew a limited amount of music, right? Like he had grown up and was blown out of the water by the new music that was coming out of Radio Luxembourg, and as many Europeans were, of like, wow, this new rock music is our music, right?
Do you remember the last time we talked about Radio Luxembourg?
I remember that we talked about it, but was it Trevor Horn?
Yeah, it was Trevor Horn.
Okay.
It was our Patreon episode we did on Video Killed the Radio Star.
Yeah, I think that Radio Luxembourg was a huge moving factor for all of those guys born in the late 40s and early 50s listening to music at the time. As a matter of fact, John he said that his brother actually would buy the records, or he haven't even got a kit radio so that they could tune into Radio Luxembourg. And his job was to stand guard at the door so that if their parents were coming by, he was like, and they would throw the pillow over their head and turn the radio off. And then his brother was cool enough to go, okay, you go listen to it for a little bit. I'll keep an eye on the door. And so that's really how he learned to fall in love with music.
I love it.
So he graduates from school, decides to start this record business, but he knows his music taste has got limitations, and so he's like, well, how do I know what records to buy? So there was a guy named Charlie Gillett that was he did Radio London, and he was the guy that was always playing new music, like, hey, every Sunday this is the new music. So he was just like, I wonder if I wrote him a letter. If I just wrote him a letter, if he might give me some advice on what records I should get for the record shop.
Yeah, that's nice.
And so that's what he did. Wrote him a letter at Radio London, and Charlie wrote back to this, young 20s kid starting a record shop, and gave him some ideas. It's like, hey, here's, do this, do that. The record shop only lasted a few months.
Okay.
But what was interesting was that he had made that connection. He realized, hey, I wrote a letter to this world famous disc jockey, and he wrote back to me. And so he's poorer than dirt. He ends up catching a roommate that's a friend of a friend who's just started as a social worker. His name is Dave Knopfler.
Dave Knopfler.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so one day he comes home late at night to his roomie passed out asleep in his bed, and some guy passed out next to a guitar on the floor in the living room, and that was Mark Knopfler.
Wow.
And so these, I mean, legitimately working stiff guys said, hey, let's put the band together. Let's see what we can do. They picked up a guy named Pick for drums. So it was Dave and Mark, John and Pick, and the first show that they did was 1977. It was in the lawn at their apartment flat. That was their first show. There is now a plaque there that said Dire Straits' first gig played here.
That is cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's really great. So the pick is a guy named David Withers that was a friend of Mark's, and they play their first show, but they don't have a band name. And so there's a guy named Simon Cowell. It was
Simon Cowell.
not Cowell.
Okay.
Not the British Idol, American Idol guy. No, Simon Cowell. It was Pick's roommate, and he was like, "You guys never have any money. You're always in dire straits." And so they thought that sounds like a good name for the band.
I love it.
And they all just felt like old friends from the beginning. And then they played their first show at the Farrer House lawn. And he said, we're all just misfits, but we were misfits doing our own thing at the time.
Wow. I love it.
They had to use another band's PA. Sounds familiar,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's right. All right. So let's go on to the next song on the album.
Yeah, sounds good.
Next song on the album is called Why Worry?
So this is a beautiful little guitar piece. It's almost like a lullaby.
Yeah.
I think Jeff Buckley probably borrowed this sound whenever he did Hallelujah. Has a very similar style to the tone of the guitar on this and the finger picking style that they both do. It's lovely. I could easily fall asleep in a hammock on Montserrat.
I totally agree, right? It's slow, it's beautiful, it's very long, it's over 8.5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those songs I believe had to be influenced by Montserrat, right? So here's the interesting thing. I told you that Steel Wheels by the Rolling Stones was the last album made at this studio.
That's a long time ago.
1989 was when that was released.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Hurricane Hugo direct hit on Montserrat in 1989.
Okay.
Okay. George Martin was on TV. I was watching an interview with him. He said there's 12,000 people on the island. 11,000 people lost their homes.
Wow.
It was a absolute punch in the face.
Devastation.
Nearly unrecoverable for anybody on the island.
So what happened with the studio?
So the studio was hit hard. George Martin couldn't get to the island for 6 weeks after the hurricane. And when he got there, he was going through looking at the damage. He said when he opened the piano, he said the ivories were covered with like mold. He said that was the moment he said, we're done here. We cannot recover from this.
Oh my God.
There's no island to go back to.
So that recording studio had a Neve board, which if you've seen the movie Sound City, or you're familiar with the recording studio Sound City, the Neve board was the penultimate board to have if you're recording an album, which is why there were so many great albums in Montserrat and in Sound City. Is it just still there, rotting away 35 years?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'd be willing to go with you to check it out if you wanted to.
Let's go, buddy. Fly down there.
You know, you mentioned that Neve board,
Yeah.
right? Which was the main mixing instrument for all these wonderful albums.
Yeah.
If you go watch the video for Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic,
Yeah, please.
you will see Andy Summers dancing barefooted on this board, like without care. I'm like, dude, that's the soundboard. What are you doing?
Wow. I get mad at my kids for throwing their
Right?
phone.
This is a grown man.
What? Wow. Gee, my knee.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. Hurricane Hugo, like I said, destroyed 11,000 people's homes out of 12,000.
Right.
And that was not the worst thing that happened to that island. Okay?
What happened?
Well, Montserrat is there because it's a volcanic island.
Oh.
And in 1995, it blew its top. And the town of Plymouth, where it was recorded, it's buried in ash now. Like, the town is no longer there, basically.
Huh.
So the Hurricane Hugo was the right hook, and then the volcano blowing up was the uppercut.
Yeah, out for the count.
Yep.
So has there been any development there since then?
There has been, there's been some.
Uh-huh.
So, but Plymouth as a city, it's not the thriving metropolis that it once was.
The 12,000 people metropolis. But the recording studio is just given up to the weeds?
It is being taken back by the jungle. Wow. Can you imagine?
No.
Should we save this thing?
I really do want to go down there and look.
Let's go.
Wow.
We need some more Patreon members.
Yeah. By the way, if you would like to support our trip to Montserrat, you can go to patreon.com Shirley Podcast. And for as little as $5 a month, you get access to all our One Hit Wonder episodes and some other fan favorites.
Join us on Patreon.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we get enough people to send us down to Montserrat,
We'll go.
One of our Patreons will go with us. We'll have a lottery system and let one of the Patreons go.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we'll go check out what it looks like at the studio.
Yeah, fantastic.
All right, D, hit stop on your tape deck. Kick it out, flip it over for side 2, and we start off with a song called Ride Across the River.
So now I feel like we're going through the jungle with Michael Douglas in Romancing the Stone, right?
Yeah, I think this is another sort of reggae kind of island feel to it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something. Tell me if I'm crazy. I think this song was influenced by the song Wrapped Around Your Finger by the Police.
I can hear in that drum beat, now that you say that, it's got a similar rhythm to it. The dun, 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 dun. Yep. I can see that. Yeah.
Okay. Also recorded on Montserrat.
Right.
Right?
Yep. So these guys, as I said, working stiffs, really just working, for a living.
That ain't working.
But they had this pub that they would go to called the Oxford Arms that was there in Deptford, England, where they were all from, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they grew up in different places. Knopfler and his brother, of course, were Geordie. Actually had a guy who had played with the band Geordie that had Brian Johnson in it come play keyboards with them.
Okay.
But, they're scraping by. They, of course, are going to see other bands play. And one rainy night, Mark Knopfler walks into a basically deserted pub, but there's a band playing. And you got a couple of kids over in the corner who could care less about the band. They're into rock and roll. Not some trumpet playing band. And these guys on stage are treating it like it's this big performance, even though there's only 3 people in the whole pub. And then at the end of the show, the lead singer says, "Thank you, good night, we are the Sultans of Swing." And that's where he gets the idea for this song. So that song, Sultans of Swing, is one of 5 songs that they have down pat. Like they're just like, we've got these songs down. We need to have a demo. They're playing the clubs, hoping to be found, but the way John Illsley put it was, you could be found that way, but it's like being a beautiful woman and hope that some agent finds you walking along in the supermarket. It's not impossible. It's just not very likely.
Right.
And what they realized is that they needed to have a demo. So after playing gig after gig after gig and not really getting anywhere, there's some unrest in the band. It's like, man, guys, we're getting into be our late 20s now. Maybe it's time to be done. And John Illsley gets a letter from his dad, and he's reading the letter, and it says, "Oh, by the way, your gran passed away. She left all the grandkids 500 pounds.
Whoa. Just in time. Thanks, Gran.
And so he's thinking, okay, with 500, I can pay my rent for this many months, and I'll have food for this many months, and I'll be able to, I'll be set for quite a while. Or we can make our demo. And he knew what the answer was to that question right off the bat. And he goes to the other guys and he's like, guys, I want to do the demo. And they're elated, you know, they're like, we will pay you back. If we ever make any money as a band,
right,
we will pay you back. And as it turned out, after they sold their first album, he got paid back that $500.
I love it. Take your shot and it pays off in spades.
Yeah.
I mean, huge dividends on that investment.
Yeah. Absolutely. So they do their demo. It includes Sultans of Swing on it. It's actually a great version of the song, arguably better than the one that came out on the album that they ultimately re-recorded later. It's a tiny recording studio. It's basically a closet for the sound booth. The guy who is helping them isn't even a producer. He's just a sound engineer.
Okay.
And his name is Chaz Harrington.
All right.
Okay. And they make friends with Chaz right off the bat. Just get along with him great. But he records, I mean, it's basically like 5 mics, you know, 3 of them go on the drum set. 1 of them goes for, you know, backing vocals, and then they double Mark's vocal, right? But they do this incredible version of Sultans of Swing and then 4 other songs. And so now they have the demo and they're like, okay, so do we send this to record companies? And they start thinking about it. And these guys have the wisdom of being over 25, right? Their brain is now fully developed. And so they're like, listen, record companies get dozens of demo tapes a day.
A day. Yeah.
Like, it's just like, are we going to bet our 500 quid on that? You know? And so they're thinking about it and they're listening to the radio. And the guy on the radio, it's Sunday, is Charlie Gillette. And Mark knows the story of John writing to him about his record shop. And he's like, why don't you just write to Charlie Gillette again and see if he'd be interested in listening to our demo?
It's your pal, you know, your buddy.
He's your pen pal. And so he's like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so he doesn't even send the demo tape, right? He just sends him a letter at the studio, at the radio station, right? And Charlie responds. And he's like, sure, guys, here's my address. Come on over to the house.
What?
And so they show up, and Charlie Gillette is like, he gives them tea and biscuits, or cookies, as we call them here in America. I mean, can you imagine, like, just Casey Kasem says, sure, Jason, come on over. Would you like some tea and some Oreos?
This is an incredible story.
Right. And so he's like, guys, I'm excited to listen to this. I don't ever listen to people's demos in front of them. It just kind of saves embarrassment for both of us here. But I will listen to this, and I'll be honest with you, you know, whatever it is, whether I love it or hate it, I'm going to be honest with you about if I think it just needs something, I'll tell you what I think it needs. Right.
Okay, good.
And they're like, okay, well, thank you. And then they leave, and they're thinking maybe we'll get a phone call or a letter a little bit later on from Charlie. And so that Sunday, these working stiffs had a buddy who was moving furniture, and he said, hey, I'll give you 10 quid if you help me move today. So they spent the entire Sunday moving furniture in and out of a moving van and moving it to a different place. And so they go to their pub, the Oxford Arms, that night with their 10 quid so that they can drink it away. And as they walk in, they get this kind of, hey, from the guys there. I mean, it's all their friends that they know, but they're like, it's a little warmer than usual, you know. They belly up to the bar, they order their pint, and as soon as they sit down, this guy's slapping them on the back, and he's like, congratulations, guys, amazing stuff, amazing. And they're like, what are you talking about?
What?
And they're like, Charlie Gillette, he played your song on the radio this morning. And they're like, what? They had no idea that he had played their song. And that was not even the best part. He goes, no, he didn't just play it. He said, this is the best new music he has heard in years, and he is going to play it every single Sunday until you guys are signed.
Whoa.
Like, what?
Like Casey Kasem
you're
saying,
expecting this, and you get that. I mean, it's just incredible.
Wow, that's incredible.
And so when he did play it, when Charlie played it that morning, the A&R guys listened to him because he's the guy who knows what's going to be popular. He's the guy that can pick the good music. And he said one of them was in a shower, Like they were calling him as soon as the song was done. Like the board lit up as soon as the song was over. And it was mostly A&R guys. One was in the shower, got out of the shower so he could be sure and hear the song. And when he heard it, he was like, I got a call. The other guy was driving down the road, listening on the radio. He pulled over to find a phone booth, found a phone booth, called him from a phone booth.
Wow.
And so literally with one play on one radio station on one Sunday morning, these guys had the A&R guys from every record company calling them up, trying to get them signed.
Oh, that's an incredible story.
Now, one of those record companies was Virgin Records. I'll tell you that story in a minute.
Okay. Let's go on to the next song.
Yeah.
Next song is called The Man's Too Strong.
I'm just an aging drummer boy, and in the wars I used to play, and I've called a tune to many a torture session. Now they say I am a war criminal, and I'm fading away. Father,
Who does that sound like to you?
Bob Dylan.
Sounds like a impersonation of Bob Dylan.
Well, after they played the Roxy, they go up to the executive bar area.
Right.
And they're like, hey, there's Rod Stewart leaning against the bar. And hey, there's Linda Ronstadt. And oh, she's got her boyfriend, the governor of California, Jerry Brown.
Yeah, that's right.
And is that Bob Dylan? And by that evening, Bob Dylan and Mark Knopfler were playing together. And by that morning, Dylan had said, would you come over? I'm doing this album. He was in his big Christian phase at that point. I'm doing this new album. I'd love for you guys to work with me. And so Mark went over and played with Bob Dylan.
I love it. I love it. Okay, before you tell us the rest of the story,
Yeah.
I've got a little nugget I've got to throw at you.
Yeah.
Okay. So at a charity event in 2007,
Okay.
there was a Fender Stratocaster that was signed by Mark Knopfler, Eric Clapton, Brian May, and Jimmy Page.
Wow.
Okay. And it was going to auction, and they expected to get about 20,000 pounds for this guitar. Keep in mind, some of the best guitarists of all time
Yeah. Like it's the best England has to offer.
ever given us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It got lost in the mail. The guitar was lost in the mail.
That means stolen.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Somebody out there has this guitar hanging on their wall, but can't really say anything to anybody.
Wow.
So the company that was in charge of shipping this guitar, Parcel Force, agreed to pay 15,000 pounds to that charity in lieu of that guitar. How about that?
Yeah, I think it would have gotten a lot more money than that, and I think that's probably exactly what happened.
If you own this guitar, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, we will not. Your name will be kept in confidence. We just want to see a picture.
Right.
So they've got A&R guys calling them off the hook, right?
Right.
Now, of course, Charlie Gillette has his own record label, and they start hanging out with him a little bit after this too, you know?
Right.
And they're at a party with him, and he's like, you know, guys, I have a record label. And they're like, listen, we love what you've done for us. You've changed our lives, but it's kind of small. He's like, I understand. I mean, they're getting all kinds of offers.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they didn't have voicemail. They didn't have even answering machines back in the 70s.
Right.
So they had to write down the numbers of the A&R guys that would call them so they could call them back.
Right.
And these guys being 20-year-old guys living they wrote it on the wall. There's the phone on the wall. He wrote it on the wall. They had so many numbers up there, they lost the number of the weed dealer up there.
That's funny.
So one of the guys who was courting them was Richard Branson from a relatively new record label called Virgin Records, right?
No, I called you this morning. I'm like, do you know this story? You're like, yes, I do. I'm like, awesome. You tell it.
Well, so they're getting guys who are like, hey, we will give you 1,500 pounds. And they're like, are you kidding right now? You know that we've got like 800 people calling us. Like,
Right.
let's be realistic. They again had that benefit of age, right? And the other benefit of age is they were thinking with the right head when they were talking to people, because Richard Branson played his cards wrong in this scenario. Like the way Branson tells it, they were going to sign with him the next day. But he decides the night before to have them come meet him at a Greek restaurant. When they come into the Greek restaurant, he is surrounded by women, scantily clad and looking good.
Ready to rock.
As they sat down, he said there was a lot of hand motion under the table, and it wasn't our hands. And then they picked up the food plate, and under the food plate was a whole pile of joints.
How'd
And
those get there?
Right. Ooh, what? Didn't know this was Greek. And so Richard Branson thinks, okay, I'm going to get these guys stoned. I'm going to get these guys laid, and they're going to be signing my record deal.
Right.
But they said they were asleep in their own beds by morning that morning. So it did not happen because they're not going to be fooled.
Don't mix business and pleasure.
So they end up going with a guy named Johnny Strains, who's with Polygram. And they said the reason they went with him was because he didn't do any tricks. He just was very straightforward. He said, we believe in you guys. We've got the money to invest in you guys. We want to give you time, and we want to take that time with you to make sure that you're a success. And that was what sold him. Genuinely good guy, legitimate deal.
You told me today what Richard Branson said of that deal.
Yeah, he later said that was the night that I lost $1 billion.
Wow. Next song on the album is a song called One World.
This is 80s blues at its best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Crockett's taking the Testarossa and he's rushing to Tubbs' aid somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So obviously they have to re-record a full album. They can't just use their demo reel.
Yep.
They re-record several of the songs from the demo, though, including Sultans of Swing.
Okay.
And then they end up having an argument about which should be the first single, whether it should be the demo version or the one they recorded for their debut album. It's also called Dire Straits. And basically the record label won, and Sultans of Swing really didn't do that well when it first came out.
Okay.
But later versions, and of course they're touring. Oh, this is a great story. So before they did the album, they toured with the Talking Heads, who I mentioned they loved. They got along with swimmingly, had a great time with them. And then their next tour was supposed to be with Styx, but Styx showed up in the UK, and they were not touted as well as they had been being touted over in America. And so just like 2 or 3 shows in, one of them faked being sick, and they canceled the rest of the shows on the tour.
Uh-huh.
And so here Dire Straits is, they're like, well, I guess we're just going to have to do a tour on our own. So their first show on their first tour was on the first Tuesday in June at the Club Lafayette in Wolverhampton. They got paid $50. Well, 50 quid, which is, 50 British bucks, right? They walk in, they set up their stuff, and they look around, and there's one security guard, and that is all in the entire place.
Right.
And they're like, is it what's going on? And they're like, we'll treat it as a practice session. It'll be fine. So then the security guard goes to open the door to let the crowd in. The crowd in being 2 guys who are both stinking drunk.
Uh-huh.
And he said, so 3 songs into our set for these 2 guys, one half of the crowd leaves to go use the facilities. He comes back a little bit later, And before the fourth song can start, he and the other half of the crowd are engaged in a full-on fistfight. He's like, it's not that kind of, random drunken brawl. This was a full-on, I want to hurt you fist fight between these two guys. Fortunately, the security guard was still there, escorted both of them out, and they finished the show to the security guard.
That's a great story.
Then 2 weeks later, they got the returned check, which had bounced for that 50 quid that they were supposed to get paid. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. All right, let's go to the last song on the album.
Last song. Let's do it.
This song is called Brothers in Arms.
These mist-covered mountains are home now for me, but my home is the lowlands, and always will be. Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms, and you'll no longer burn to be brothers in arms.
So this one, I feel like you could slip this into The Wall by Pink Floyd and nobody wouldn't even notice.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
It's got such a Pink Floyd The Wall feel. I mean, even to me, even Mark Knopfler's voice is similar to Roger Waters. I mean, it's very Pink Floyd to me, and I really enjoyed it. This was a new one. I had not heard this before. I know it was a single that was a release, but it kind of missed my radar. But I really, really, really like Brothers in Arms, the song.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great song. This song was written in 1982, the year that Britain invaded, in 1986.
Wow.
How about that?
Yeah.
This won the Grammy for Best Music Video in February of 1987.
Yep.
And I watched the video. Did you watch the video for this? So if you've ever asked yourself, why didn't they do more videos like Take On Me with all that cool animation and drawing and sketching? Well, this is your video because it's like the sequel to Take On Me.
That's right. I have seen this video. I know what
Okay.
you're talking about. Yes.
A lot of rotoscoping, and it looks very similar.
Right.
This song has been played on the West Wing and during many military funerals.
Brothers in Arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love this song. I think it's a great one.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
kind of an undiscovered gem for me.
So tell me a little bit about, this album obviously just absolutely blows up.
Right?
Million CDs sold, 30 million albums. They do just a couple more albums and then they're done. Maybe one more?
Well, they don't do another album until 1991.
Right. So they go 6 years.
Yeah. They just fizzle out. And the thing I can't really put my finger on is every time they talk to Knopfler about it, he's like, it just got too big. It
Yeah.
got too big and I became uncomfortable. And the guy I saw interviewing him is like, could you give me a specific example? Like, what bothered you? He's like, well, we would go to eat dinner, like at catering, and we'd see people we didn't recognize. That bothered me. He was just uncomfortable with that size of success.
Based on what I read, that actually makes sense. So I understand it. Mark is a very quiet guy, very contemplative guy. Even though he's center stage with the lights on him on stage,
Yeah.
he's not that way. And he gets awkward whenever people want to talk to him about how good his music is. It's interesting to me. Obviously, this group started with Mark and his brother. Their second to last album is called Brothers in Arms when Dave has been gone for a while. And I don't think they still get along very well. It's kind of a tragic story, but Dave he just wasn't learning the songs and wasn't doing well with the recording. And the producer would be like, go outside, learn this song, come back tomorrow, we'll figure it out. And then he would come back and he'd still not know it. He just wasn't doing it. And I think, got tired of living in Mark's shadow. He actually they sent John, his roommate from when they were both dirt poor, to talk to him and go, hey man, you got to learn the music, because if you don't, you can't be in the band anymore.
Yeah.
I'm
See
going to
ya.
go home.
Yeah, I'm out.
So, yeah, it's just kind of weird to me that you have this breakdown of the brothers, and then their biggest hit is called Brothers in Arms. So,
I think it's weird that this album sells 30 million copies, and they're like, that's it. We're out of here. We're done. Fizzle. Now, they did have a lot of solo projects. They even formed a country band, or Knopfler did. So they've done stuff and had success.
well, and don't forget Mark Knopfler did soundtrack for The Princess Bride.
How can we forget that?
Gorgeous, right?
So he's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I heard John Isley, they're like, do you think, will Dire Straits ever? He's like, no, probably not.
Yeah, Mark's the same way.
Yeah.
Unless there's some big reason to do it, there's not a reason to do it. That was a thing for that time, and that time is over, and we all would rather have our own thing now.
I told you I watched a video where Mark Knopfler met up with Brian Johnson from AC/DC.
Right.
Right. And they were in this specific town where they both had common memories of playing and sort of success and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And they're both, wearing jeans and, hats, and they look like a couple of
Old farts.
who are super excited to see each other. It was really a sweet video.
Yeah.
But there are people walking by and have no care that they're walking by the singer to one of the greatest rock bands of all time and maybe the greatest guitar player of all time and have no idea.
Yeah.
No clue.
Just a couple of old dudes who, why's the camera filming those old
Right,
dudes?
that's right. I think we're time for Final Judgment.
Okay, so here we are. We're at Final Judgment. We have to decide, walking out the door, are we picking up Heart by Heart? Or are we picking up Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits? You may go first.
Okay. So I talked to our buddy James Buckley today.
Okay.
And I asked him, I always generally call him before we record, and I say, hey, do you have any anecdotes for me for this, what we're doing today? And he's like, I remember going on a camping trip with some of my friends and a couple of my cousins. And he goes, the fire was dying, and we were listening to this tape, and it was time to go to bed. And one of my cousins, at the last second, decided to throw an extra log on the fire and burned his eyebrows off.
Okay.
He said, that's my memory of this album.
Okay.
Which I thought was funny. But if you're asking me to compare the Heart album with all those sort of rock, Aquanet covered hits that we had and compare to, this, one of the best selling albums of the 80s, for me, I don't think Brothers in Arms was addressed to me at age 12. I think that's more had somebody my uncle's age in mind. But for me, if I'm walking out the door, Spike the Football, I'm grabbing Heart's album over Brothers in Arms.
Okay. So let me mention Kevin Davis, also a good friend, also a Patreon
What's
member.
up, Kevin? How you doing, bud?
Kevin is a huge Dire Straits fan. Remember talking to him about Sultans of Swing in detail when we did our best of 78, 79, whichever it was. And those songs, there's the songs from the 70s, and then there's this album. I look at the Heart album, and as I said when we did the episode, it seems like literally every single song on the album could have been a single.
Right.
And some of them are fantastic nostalgia for me. Like, I'm going to turn them up every single time that they come on. But with the Brothers in Arms album, as I said, we've got 3 just absolute killer songs
Bangers.
out of the gate.
Yep.
Then you take a hard left turn into some way different kind of music. And it's not that I don't like that music. It's just that, like you said, it's a different demographic. It wasn't 10-year-old me back in 1985.
Right.
But I'm not 10-year-old me anymore. I'm nearly 50-year-old me now. And so I'm listening to it with a new ear. And the songs that are not the first 3 songs and not the last song, they don't rank to the level that the Heart songs do. All of those Heart songs could have been singles.
Okay.
But if I look at this like a cross-country team, and Heart has a strong pack, Brothers in Arms has the leader that is so far ahead of everybody else, that's time is so much better than everybody else, that it doesn't really matter what you got, because this guy just blew it out of the water. And Money for Nothing is that song. It is the song. I mean, I will disregard every single Heart song for that song alone. And it's not only that song on the album. I've got another 4 on there that I really enjoy, and another 3.5 that this could grow on me over time. So because Money for Nothing is so strong, so incredible, so ahead of every other song on these 2 albums, it's the winner for me.
Awesome.
I'm picking Dire Straits.
Okay, I love it. I love it. Well, guys, we want to hear from you. Which one do you grab? You're walking out the door. Is it Heart? Is it Dire Straits? We want to hear from you.
Yeah. Guys, hit us up on Twitter, now X. Hit us up on Facebook. We're at Shirley Podcast on both of those. You can email us, shirleypodcast@gmail.com. If you do want to join our Patreon page, we would love to have you. Those are some of our best episodes. And the other great part is we're a big, happy Shirley family over there. And we engage in fantastic discussions on all of our threads over there. So go check out our Patreon page, sign up for free, and you can listen to the episodes for as little as $5 a month.
Next week, D, we have the John Cusack matchup of Better Off Dead versus One Crazy Summer.
Cannot wait. Savage Steve Holland at his best.
I want my $2. Come back for that awesome matchup.
See you guys then.
Where are those guys? They were supposed to be here like an hour ago. Somebody call the Shirley You Can't Be Serious podcast. I'm looking for a couple of guys named Dee and Jason. I'm sitting here waiting for my color TV and my refrigerator to be delivered.